Dice, yeah, ay, ay.
In this episode of FYI I Am Damaged, I sit down with a powerhouse from the Bronx Chapter of 100 Hispanic Women, President Miguelina Camilo, and surprise guest, Vice President Virna Crespo. We talk about their mission to uplift Latinas through education, mentorship, and real opportunity. From immigrant roots to law, politics, and public service, she's cultivated a community driven network that's breaking stereotypes and opening doors. Whether you're chasing your dreams, searching for mentors, or just want to be reminded that we rise by lifting each other, this conversation's for you. Enjoy. We are sponsored by Simi Consulting. Ready to take your nonprofit to the next level? Simi Consulting specializes in empowering organizations like yours with tailored fundraising strategies, dynamic board development, whether you're looking to enhance your donor engagement, train your leadership team, or execute unforgettable events. We've got you covered. At Simi Consulting, we're passionate about helping you achieve your mission and create lasting impact. Let's build a brighter future together. Visit simiconsulting.com, CIMI consulting.com. Get started today with maximizing your fundraising impact. Welcome to the FYI I Am Damaged podcast, a home where not only the healed, healing, and others share their wisdom, as well as organizations that can put forth their nobility in supporting the strength of the community in all its wonderful facets, be it education, life, mental, and physical health. The Bronx chapter of the 100 Hispanic Women National Organization is on a mission to inspire Latinas to achieve their personal and professional goals through education, mentorship, and leadership development. By creating pathways for success and community empowerment, they're building a future where Latina voices lead with strength, purpose, and pride. In today's conversation, we dive into how that mission comes to life with President of the Bronx Chapter Board, Miguelina Camilo, Esquire. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Oscar, for having me.
So I'll get started with my first question. Your work from private practice to serving as counsel to the Speaker of New York State Assembly is a great journey. In your professional profile, what pivotal moments or challenges shape your path, and how did they influence your leadership style?
That's a great question. I've been an attorney now for 13 years, and I always start my career story by explaining that I'm the first one in my family to go to college. I'm the first lawyer in my family. You know, my parents came from the Dominican Republic, and I was born in the Dominican Republic. From a very young age, education, right, was everything. And they worked very hard. My dad was a bodega owner. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. And there was pretty much no excuse in my house to not do well in school. Also, like as Latino parents who have a very kind of in a not in a bad way, but like a small mindset of what are career possibilities. To them, it was always like, I'm going to be a doctor or a lawyer. That was it. There was nothing else. But luckily, being a lawyer fit me very well because of things that I enjoyed. I did well in school, and I was always speaking for others, speaking for them. So being a lawyer really made sense. Going to law school, becoming a lawyer, the challenge was always having a lack of mentors because I couldn't rely on any lawyers or anyone in my family who could do that, who could advise me as to everything from applications to financial aid to picking the best school and, you know, what type of program I should be looking for. None of that was possible or available to me. So my career really early on, I understood I needed to find mentors and I needed to learn from people around me. I think one of the biggest moments, and it is all tied together, and I very much believe in like everything happens for a reason. I ended up going to law school, New York Law School in the city. I remember going through school and saying, I want to do criminal law. I want to either go to the district attorney's office, you know, that's the path, and I want to be in the courtroom and represent people. And my dad told me, well, why don't we did know one lawyer, Murray Richmond, who represented, you know, a lot of small businesses. So he's like, call him, ask him for an internship, see what you can do. And it turned out into my first job, and Murray became my first real mentor. So that was a pivotal moment, I think, very early in my career of just having someone on my side who was always gonna be supportive and is supportive to this day, as a real just guidance in my career and also in my ambitions, right, to be a leader. So I think my leadership style is very inclusive. I always try to understand that people are probably entering the field the same way I am without kind of like that coach in the corner that's always going to speak to them and speak really strength into them, because it's not an easy thing to pursue the career of law. It's a lot of time, a lot of effort. It's a financial commitment, right? Because it's expensive to go to law school. Mm-hmm. And then, looking for work. The market out there is definitely difficult. When I graduated 2011. And even now, the work environment is changing. A lot of people working remotely, a lot of different jobs exist. My story definitely is very influenced by people I've met along the way and who've been helpful, who've been mentors.
How did working in the private sector and its experience help prepare you for your roles in public service, community leadership, and 100 Hispanic Women?
The transition actually was not difficult, because even in my private work, I was always in service to people. So even as I would always joke, because I was a private attorney, I did mostly criminal law and family law. But I was in the Bronx, where people could barely afford anything. And I was always very, I guess, compassionate about that. My family would joke, like, you should just be legal aid lawyer, because I never wanted to charge people. I would have a lot of clients that would pay a certain amount for a case that we expected to resolve in like 1 or 2 appearances. And there would be like 3 more appearances. I'd be like, forget it, it's fine. Let's just figure it out. So I was always that person. I was always meant to be more in public service. I could never go the route of just, being in big law or making the money, which would be great. But it just, the work that mattered to me seemed to be for people that really were in difficult times. Then being in public service, a lot of it, how it started was the networking aspect, which is super important in anything you do, right? I think meeting people and connecting with people is always beneficial. And we say that to our girls and the students that apply or become part of 100 Hispanic, and students that we meet in other groups that we're part of. Always try to be kind to people, always try to meet people, and remember that you may need them one day, or relationships are always long lasting and people remember how you treat them. Part of my career in growing my business, getting clients, was to meet people, to have a good relationship with other lawyers, judges, people in that legal space, but also people in the community, because the law is very close to politics. So I also had quickly formed relationships with our local electeds, and I was interested really in their work because they really are a voice, right, for entire communities. The pivot was small, it was all just part of like who I was and the work that I wanted to do. And then with 100 Hispanic, and specifically for it to start a Bronx program, that was an opportunity that we were considered for, right? Like the program, it's a national program. It had leadership from the Bronx, actually. Our national president, Shirley Romanisky, a woman from the Bronx who even left her legacy in creating a charter school, Big League, which still operates today. Leadership that came from her board got to know different women through different groups all throughout the city. We have a very strong Westchester chapter, Long Island chapter, Rockland. And then when they were looking towards the Bronx, I was a person that they could consider, and I wanted to be that president and part of the leadership of the Bronx program. And also with V, V worked in our courts, worked with our communities, has, extensive family also. Her mom was a salon owner, is a salon owner, maybe still in the Bronx. B, why don't you tell us a little bit your connections to the community in doing this?
Oh gosh. I'll start off with I was born in the Dominican Republic, came at the age of 4 to the South Bronx, and was raised in the South Bronx. My mom has always been a business owner back from the Caribbean island. She was very successful. And one of the things that I learned just being raised by a single female parent, the strength that we have, right? And the empowerment that we can just give to others. And others can feed off of it in a positive note. The business owner aspect, I worked for my mom and then I ended up owning the business for a few years before I left to the courthouse. That alone just taught me how to communicate with a community, how to respect everyone at all levels, whether you were a professional, whether you were not a professional, whether you were a student, whether you were not a student, right? Or struggling. We always learned how to give everyone the same level of respect and love. So when I transitioned into the courthouse, I had the pleasure of starting to work for a judge. And that was also a humbling experience. But throughout the years in the courthouse, I was able to grow my network and meet amazing individuals like Miguelina Camilo. Like, I consider her my sister right now. That was a different world in itself. Everyone had a different level of power, right? And everyone helped in the community. It's public service. So one way or another, from a 9 to 5, you still engage with the community, you still gave back to the community. I married into politics, so I know what it is to be in the neighborhoods, just giving back, giving love mostly, and just respect. But the 100 Hispanic woman, I had the pleasure of Miguelina bringing me on. It's very rewarding, and my reward is that I feel that I am fulfilled the most when I am able to connect. Everyone here knows it is always who you know or who that person could connect you to sometimes make it. Right. And with our girls in the Bronx, sometimes they struggle. They struggle with finding mentors. They struggle with finding opportunities. They struggle sometimes financially to go to school. This organization actually gives us the opportunity to give back and to connect. And connecting is one of the most powerful things that we can do, especially as Latinos, breaking that negative thing that we don't help each other. Like we're like crabs that we, tend to pull each other down to just climb up the wall. This has been showing everyone that we do the opposite. We do not do that. We help each other, we push each other, we network, and on top of that, it's an organization that is national, and amongst the professional, we continue meeting other powerful women and growing ourselves as individuals and professionals. So that is my take on on my experience on the 100 Hispanic Women. And what better way, right, that to run this organization with one of my great friend, Miguelina, and also being able to bring in other female that we consider family and have the same vision and mission and fire that we both have.
That's amazing. Every meeting must be so fun.
Yes, it is.
You've held various positions, from legal counsel to president of multiple bar associations. How did you navigate these responsibilities, and what strategies do you employ to keep balance and value across these roles?
Yeah, that is, a great question, I think, especially for the Latina community, because I think we're raised to be doers and we're raised to help others, to say yes to people, right? We always come from a place of yes. And you mentioned the word balance, which is funny because that's always a struggle, I think, for everyone. How do you balance everything? I think for me and for anyone I speak to about their thoughts of like, what they should be doing in their lives, you really gotta lean into your passion, right? And what you care about. And I found myself to know the great benefit of having, like I said, mentors and having community to really thrive in. Like one big group that really did that for me was the Dominican Bar Association, which in my law school career, I got to know them. And it was really incredible to be in a room filled with attorneys that looked like us and who spoke Spanish and who ate the food that we ate. And like, it's sad to say that that was such a shocking thing to realize. And I realized it, as a young lawyer. I never realized it as a young woman, as a young adult, as a teenager, like that my life was always surrounded by, very hardworking people that weren't wearing suits to work. They were going to work in jeans and, to factories, to stores, to dealerships, like all these other things, which is honorable work, right? But it's always just one sector of our society. I think being in community and being in those groups really was always what I found happiness in and joy in. So I always made time for it. Now, as a more senior professional, I would say, right? And I've had several roles. I've in different groups. I think I've learned to actually, you do more when you take on less, and you try to do that less, as best as you can. There was a point where growing as a professional, you want to take on everything, right? Like every single board, every single meeting, every single event. Like, funny enough, I had friends that joked with me when COVID hit, and Oscar, we were talking about COVID and how that changed and how that really was when we came on to 100 Hispanic. But before COVID, I was known as the girl that went to 3 or 4 events a week, right? Like networking events, galas, meetings. I was everywhere.
Wow.
And I'm not even joking. I had so many friends when COVID hit that text me and said, Mig, are you going to be okay? Because now you're not going to be able to do all these events. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm happy. I'll rest. I won't have to do those things. And it was kind of always a feeling like I wanted to be there, but I felt like I had to be there, and that was just like, I enjoyed it, but I also, I guess, was growing my brand and growing my circle. And, if I connected with someone, I dislike very much when people connect with you because it's transactional and they're just like, oh, hi, I need this. Hello, nice to meet you. I don't like that at all, and I never had mentors that showed me that that was the way to get things. They showed me that you needed to show up. You needed to prove yourself, especially, V mentioned politics. We're both in the political world in a way. FaceTime is important. Building up that loyalty is important. Showing that you actually will continue to, I guess, participate and contribute, even if you don't get that thing you're asking for, is more along the lines of how I like to do things. All of those groups really just helped us develop how we wanted to lead 100 Hispanic. As V mentioned, being with so many young women that don't know where to start, have any idea of who's in their community and who they should be connecting with. So if we can offer just those contacts or that access, that's like a simple thing for us that we do with so much joy, right? Because we really want people, it's free in a way to give that access to them, and then to teach them to just how to continue to do that for themselves.
2 things I pulled from that was the youth really need to understand is, yes, you can do more with less. You don't have to pile up your plate. It's more fulfilling, but the fear of missing out and these type of sayings that they attach to it, they're like, no, I have to have all my hands in all these cookie jars. It's like, not really. Because if it's not serving you, then all you're gonna do is wear yourself down. And also with the FaceTime, the actual FaceTime, that's why I like to do my interviews in person if I can, because it's a different air in the room. It's a different feeling when you're face to face with somebody and talking to them and getting all of this knowledge and everything that they have to offer. And for me, it's just a different feeling. So those two are 2 things I really connected with.
I wanted to just add something just to the conversation before you go to the next one, feeding off of both of the comments. One thing I want to add with when Miguelina speaks about these judges and mentors, they don't just embrace you because you are into law, right? Because you're an attorney or you're aspiring to just be a judge. We share the same mentors. I have more than 6 judges as personal mentors, and I am not going to become an attorney. I don't do law, but just because, like we said, right, that in-person engagement and you read off of energy, they have embraced me as one of the groups, one of the team, and they mentor me personally and professionally. And one of the things that we create when we do our events is that we give space for students to meet these individuals that they can't even imagine how to even bump into them, right? How to even speak to them. And that's one of the things that we take pride, that we've created rooms where these students are able to speak to them one-on-one and do a personal connection with them. And depending on them, then they can pick them up as mentors or stay connected. But we actually create that space for the students. That's one of the things that I wanted to just bring up. Yes, I think each profession, right? But especially attorneys, they have to do a lot of networking, a lot of in-person meetings. And one of the things that I can say, it's a quick burnout. And sometimes because, and I experienced this, right, Miguelina? It's a lot of the same events and same faces. So whether you mentally like just have like a switch to just like not be like, I'm not gonna go, it's the same people, why am I gonna go? Son la misma cara, vamos a hablar de la misma cosa. How am I just exposing myself to a different level with the same individuals? This is where, your team, your group kind of like talk you back and switch that, mindset of, this is for the future, this is not just for the moment, this is for your growth, and this is what, and then they guide you. And I've been privileged to be able to tap into that, not being in law. And we're just speaking about our mentors that are judges, and they're at all levels of judgeship. They're at the appellate division, they're, Supreme Court judges, civil court judges. I had the pleasure of working with the administrative judge of the Supreme Courthouse, and he gave me also the opportunity and the push, right? The push to become deputy public administrator for a Bronx, city agency. So, it's all like who you meet and guide them on what you do when you meet that person, right, Miguelina? And that's like one of the things that we need to communicate a lot with our students, especially now that everything is virtual and they kind of have like a social imbalance. It's how do you act? How do you speak? And what to ask when you have this opportunity in your face? What do you do with that 2-3 minutes when you meet a person that could change your life? And I think that's like one of the important things that we have to just like, continue doing for our youth.
No, it's as members of the 100 Hispanic Women Bronx Chapter, you guys focus on raising scholarships for young Latinas. Can both of you share a success story or stories that display the impact of these scholarships on the recipients and the community?
Yes, that is the sole goal of 100 Hispanic Women. The group was started by women that were mostly in the health industry or social workers, and the name really came of imagining a room full of as many women as possible in all different fields. So yes, I'm an attorney, and yes, we encourage, of course, the young women that are pursuing their JDs and going to law school. But a lot of our applicants and a lot of our members are pursuing BAs and masters in social work and teaching, in nursing. We have so many different sectors that our young girls from the Bronx are pursuing. And while we've given, in the last 4 years, we would say we're still a relatively new program. And we're working every year to give as many scholarships as possible. The benefit from our program, too, is that when you apply for the scholarship and you're, let's say, starting a 2-year program, an associate's degree, we will give you that support financially for those both years, right? Or if you're pursuing a master's for a certain number of time, a certain number of years, we give you that support once you are a winner. I think I had mentioned to you in the past, Oscar, that we had about 40 applicants this year, which we're still reviewing. And the increasing number just shows us that as word of mouth and our program becomes more highlighted, we're going to hear from more and more students in the Bronx that are looking for this support. And I think the success story is that, right? That we are getting so many more applicants that want to be part of 100 Hispanic Women. I'm on the scholarship committee part of our group, and I read these applications. And I tear up when I read them because they're all us, right? Like their stories are my story, V's story, like our board. We have other amazing women on our board. all the stories are, I'm the first one in my family. I'm a caretaker for my parent. My parent works as a single parent, a business owner, or whatever they're doing, just trying to make ends meet. Those stories always fill me with so much emotion because it's still mostly our community. We're in that place where we're in the single digits for any given profession. Like Latina lawyers, we're like 1% of the profession. Same for us in finance, for us in medicine, whatever it is, like we're still so small in representation, but there's so many students that if they just have someone helping them to get through that first step of their education, it can make such a huge difference and such an impact in the long term. We hope to keep building for that future success by just raising as much money as possible. We have a brunch coming up June 28th, which is being already promoted on social media and on our website of 100hispanicwomen.org. We are actively looking for sponsors for people to attend. 100% of the proceeds, everything goes to these scholarships. 100 Hispanic is a nonprofit. We are here voluntarily. We're doing it because we love it and we want to give back, but it's all in our free time. It's all just because we want these students to have the support they need to pursue their careers.
I think Miguelina answered. She said all the information needed for your question, but I'll just add a success story that doesn't connect with the scholarship, but just an opportunity. Last year, I'm sorry, the year before, we had our brunch in the Bronx, a very nice place, Roses in the Parks. We invited a few students from Fordham University and others, and this is a female, right, event for Latinas. And there was one gentleman that came and attended, young gentleman. And after he experienced our event, spoke to all the professionals that were there, I have the pleasure to say that he is now a law student. He was inspired by the judges and the attorneys that were there. And we were able to connect him with a female judge, and that judge made sure that he got all his prerequisites, and now he is a law student starting the fall. So, those are the opportunities. We talk a lot about Latinas, but we are all, including gentlemen, we have a lot of sponsors that are male owned business owners, firm owners, and they are very, very supportive to our organization, to the Bronx program. And just like that, we invite, the male students to come and just see what's happening. And then we can connect them to, I think, the Male 100 Hispanic group. They also have an organization. That's one of like my highlights from previous years.
So now with the young women that apply for the scholarship and those that are going into law school, business, public service, community service, all of that throughout your careers, how has this experience informed your perspective on justice and equality within these systems? Not just the legal system, but the legality of it is always intertwined with everything that you're doing, especially in the public space. How is your perspective on that and leading them to make sure that I guess they step on the minimal amount of landmines on their way to their journey?
V, do you want to start this one?
Man, I'm even nervous to even comment on that one. I'll leave that to you.
Leave it to the lawyer.
Bueno, okay, well, I'll jump in. I mean, I will say that I'm always impressed by our students because they're so much braver than I ever was. I also didn't ask for help, for a very long time. Again, growing up in a certain household, and we're Latina women, right? We're told to be respectful, to ask permission, I would say I'm sorry all the time. That was actually one thing my first boss, Murray, who I mentioned, would tell me, like, stop saying you're sorry. What are you sorry for? And then when I was an attorney, he's like, you're an attorney now. You're not the secretary, and there's nothing wrong with being the secretary, but you're the attorney. I had to really learn that. And I'm probably at my best now, being a professional 10 years plus. But I see a lot of these young students who apply for these scholarships, they're invited to the event, and they're coming, and they're showing up and they're asking questions. And it's a benefit too that we're in the technology, world, and so much information is accessible. So they are hungry and they're curious and they're wanting to figure out, like, what opportunities there are. And they're very honest with, my parents can't help me. My parents don't know how to do this. I have to figure this out. But all of that too is difficult because we're also in our own careers, right? We're also in offices and we're also with people. And we do see the difference. We do see certain kids that don't have to work that hard, don't have to worry about getting a job. Their dad is a lawyer or a judge, or they know personally of a job opportunity that's going to be almost handed to them. And not to discredit that way completely, but we know that there's so much harm that has come from that skewed kind of access to only certain groups. And I think V started her comments by saying this, that we have to focus on helping each other, not really, dividing each other up, especially in the Latino community, which in a way is so fluid, right? A lot of us are divided, Dominican, Puerto Rican, Mexican, like we all feel like we're separate and we all have our very important identities that we celebrate. That the idea of who's going to help you, it's sad that sometimes the Jewish person is more open to helping me than the next Dominican person, and that, I'll be real, like that is a real thing. It shouldn't be that way. Not that that is the only way to only help your kind. We can't forget our story is probably their story as well. And when you're choosing to, turn your back on your own community, you're just perpetuating that cycle, right? We're going to continue to have less. We're going to continue to have no opportunities to really grow. And we should take a lesson from those communities that are closer and that have helped each other and do only keep those resources for themselves. That's also been part of their strategy and their wealth, really, in whatever they've secured, they've kept it for themselves. If you're in a place like us, I think, where we can give back and we can be more open to what a process really is to become a professional, then there are people like us who are able to do that.
I want to chime in. I wasn't going to share, but I think we have time, right?
I'm on your time, guys. That's you're giving me your time, so it's done when it's done.
Yeah.
Please.
So I'm gonna just feed off of Miguelina, which is a very important topic, and I'll give a personal story of mine. My daughter was in the worst elementary school in the Bronx, and she was behind 2 grade levels. And when I went to request resources and help, I was denied, right? There was no space. It was public school, blah, blah, blah. Not talking about broken, system. I'm not getting into that. They wanted her to get evaluated from the school. I did a private evaluation. And yeah, she was 2 grades behind. We couldn't understand what was her problem. The school solution was for me to consider vocational studies for my daughter. We're talking about a 4th grader at that time. So here I am, right? What the heck? Losing my mind. What am I going to do? My daughter's dumb? Is that what they're trying to say? And then what I did was that I was dating my husband at that time, and we decided to move in together. So like that, I am freed from paying rent. And then that money I put into putting her into a private school. So pretty much I was forced to invest in private education because the public system was not giving me the help and resources that I needed to make sure that she at least came up to grade level. Did the investment. My husband and I have stories about how many eviction letters we received while he was being an elected official, because we wanted to make sure that she got the education that she needed, at least to make it to college, right? Now, my mentality was, I want her to at least make it to college. Why? One, I migrated at the age of 4 with a single parent, which had a profession. She was a business owner. And in my mind, I need to honor her and be something better than her. Not saying that what she was doing was not something great. She raised all of us and took care of her family. She made really good money, but I wanted to honor her in getting a professional, right? We are in this new country. I wanted to honor her with that. And in my mindset now, I have my daughter now has to exceed me, right? So now we have that challenge. Like I have that now throughout my family. But how can I do that? And it was through sacrifice. Not every family in the Bronx can do that. Not every family can have the finances or make a sacrifice to have the finances to put into their child so they can exceed, right? I did the sacrifice. I saw the benefit out of it. Miguelina saw throughout raising my oldest daughter. She went to one of the elite schools in the Bronx. She graduated from Preston High School, went to Queens College, graduated from there, then went to Manhattanville. Now she's a registered nurse. The girl that had a learning disability went through college, got 2 bachelor's degree, and is a registered nurse. And she's not stopping there. She said she's going to be a CR, something, something. So she's still going to, and she did not have to go through medicine or therapy. It was an understanding of, we're just not going to believe the lies that they tell us that we can't make it, or we're not smart enough, or we're not strong enough, or we don't have the time to do it. She proved the whole world that it's doable. My concern as a parent is that I know there's thousands of family that cannot do that because they don't have the finances to give their kids an opportunity. So this group allows us to give them a space to meet people, right? And allows us to raise funds to be able to at least cover something so they can go to college, cover an expense. I wish I had this back a few years ago. I wish Miguelina and I were a part of this organization. And right now, we're just doing college students, but in the future, I can see this trickling down to high school students and tapping into the high school students before they even apply to college to make sure that they're not struggling with whatever career path they choose, or just give them peace of mind that, yes, you can do this. Don't deviate from this path. You can do this. There's an army behind you. And this is what I feel about 100 Hispanic Women and working along my sisters, is that we have all the good and bad experiences. We know what is needed. What we just need is the financial support from the community to be able to give back to our girls.
And it's great that that story shows the passion why you're so connected to want to make sure that they have a leg up when it wasn't even thought of to say, oh no, your women should know their place where they are at and stay there. In this country, no. When it's taught to everyone, you can do what your heart's desire and not what someone's vision is for you off of something so asinine as, just pigeonholing you because of your culture, because of your gender. Now, both of you being deeply connected to the Dominican community, how has your culture heritage influenced your leadership and role in the community of the Bronx? I know you guys touched on a little bit, but is there anything more focused to say, how has the community pushed you into going to where you are now?
Well, definitely our roots as being Dominican. I mentioned I was born in the Dominican Republic as well. Every summer growing up, I was going back to DR, spending it at my grandmother's house. So I had great summers with no electricity, no running water, no cereal, eating mangoes. Like all of that is a huge part of who I am. And, my grandmother had 14 kids from my dad's side. My mom's side had 12 kids. So I have like 50 cousins. So I have so much family all the time. And running around in El Campo, en Callejon, it's like I actually just visited last year with my dad and everything seems so small. And I'm like, I remember running and thinking I was like in the wilderness and like just everything was huge. And there's so many memories that come from like our homeland. My favorite thing ever is to hear stories about my grandmother and about how they grew up in poverty. Not that that's a great thing, but just to hear about their resilience. That being part of our roots, like being Dominican, that's why I work so hard. That's why I care so much. That's why, I show up as myself in every room, right? Like you will hear within 5 minutes that I'm Dominican and that I'm very close with my family and that I do want to engage as much as possible with other Latina and other women specifically. I have a lot of strong role models in my family of women. And interesting enough, like my grandmother became a single mom earlier on because my grandfather passed away and she raised her family by herself. And back in the day too, like you never remarried, right? Like you just carry the household by yourself. And she was like the strongest woman I ever knew. And I still very much feel her presence with me all the time. Like, I believe like my strength as a leader and all that, it's like from her, not taking part in like a personal life, right? Like where I don't have kids, I haven't built a family, but I've built this whole career. A lot of times feel like I got to do that other side of life that she didn't get to do. All of that really, really matters. And if you're not Latina or if you're not from DR, like I think all of that, what I'm trying to say is I know who I am. I know where I come from. And that is like the essence of being a leader. And we work in politics. We are around a lot of people that I think also struggle with leadership sometimes because they don't know that. They don't know who they are or what they stand for. And if that's where you have to start. Like before you even try to persuade someone else to follow you, vote for you, whatever, you can't sell yourself if you don't know who you are and what you made up of and like what really drives you. Being Dominican, my culture, like I have my Dominican flags in my office. I have my like music. I have my food, like everything we do. I was in a panel a few weeks ago and they're like, oh, what's like the one thing you love or is signifies to you being Dominican? I'm like, everything. It's everything. I think I also hope that we as people that are getting these girls in the room and are trying to like get them to learn of other people, I hope they see that from us, that we are very proud of where we come from and we're very proud of who we are. And we want them to also really embrace that.
I think for me is, and not comparing ourselves to other Hispanic, right? We bring another level of pride. We bring another level of being comfortable within our skin and the room. We don't shy away from conversations. We don't shy away from challenges. And we kind of mix in very well with the melting pot of this country, right? We can relate to every other culture. Nothing kind of phases us. But I think it's that. I think it's the level of pride and honor that we bring to the table at all levels: work, family, relationship, love, even hate. I think it's that. It's the level of pride that we bring in. And we are very supportive. We support each other. I know that sometimes we come across a lot of people that have different agendas, and that turns Miguelina and I off a bit, but we're always present. We're always there. That's what I have to say about being Dominican.
Well said. Thank you, Verna. The distilled mission statement for 100 Hispanic Women on Instagram is to guide Latinas towards excellence in leadership. What does this mission mean to you personally, and how do you see it evolving in today's social and political climates?
Personally, to me, I think it's just, planting those seeds for the future Vinalisi, the future Miguelina, like we are here for a moment in time. We have worked very hard to get to this place. It's for nothing if we can't make sure that there's others that are gonna essentially follow, the roadmap that we've been able to lay out. It's definitely very simple to me. It's just about making sure that we're spotting those future leaders and we're giving them what they need to succeed. I think one of my biggest leadership tasks or styles, I would say, or like what I advise when someone else is trying to take on a leadership role, I'm like, on day one or day two, find your successor. Like that is the biggest mark of a leader, is when they spot that next person and they tell them, I think I've told this to B many times, hey, you're next. You're the next leader to this. Like, we're going to encourage you. I'm going to support you. I'm here for you because it's possible. You could definitely be the one that takes this on. For me, 100 Hispanic is the vessel and a great way to do that. And because we are the Bronx program, we are focused on doing that for the Bronx, for our girls here, because the Bronx is a very vibrant community that still has so much potential, so much more room to grow. It's the largest home of Dominicans, right, outside of the Dominican Republic. So we feel very at home here, but it's just like a beautiful place where I'll quickly say, when I was an attorney going to courthouses throughout the city, I never felt okay except when I was in a Bronx courthouse. Like going to Queens, going to Brooklyn, going to Manhattan, it just people were different. In the Bronx, people are more welcoming. Yes, we have also other characters, right? And we also have a lot of struggles in our Bronx community. But I feel like there's more of effort or an openness to get to know your neighbor, to get to know like who are you? Like what's going on here? And like you just build relationships, I guess, in a way. That has been my experience at least. So for 100 Hispanic, that's what we're here for, to make sure that they're empowered so that they can do this well beyond us.
I'll add, and we have to highlight this, right, Miguelina? Like we cannot speak about leadership without mentioning one of our mentors. Like Sally Mansonet Daniels is the true, like, what's that term? GOAT? When it comes to, because she is the one, she's an appellate judge, and she is creating an army of Latinos. And before she retires, her goal is to make sure that she positions as much as possible those seats, just fill up those seats with the Latino future leaders. And she has done an amazing, amazing job, but she's no joke. And Miguelina can testify that because she will jump down our throat when we don't do something that she advises us or tells us that we need to do to make sure that we are doing the right thing for the community, for ourselves, for the courthouse, right? Because she is one of the judges. But when anybody speaks about leadership, Sally pops up to my mind because she is a badass Latina Puerto Rican woman that has helped not just the Puerto Rican community, but the Dominican community, and I don't know which other Latino community, but she is all about the Bronx and she is all about bringing up nuestra gente. And that is the person that I want all these young, individuals to see. She is no joke. She's not afraid of anybody. Nobody shuts her up. She is going to do what she believes in her heart is the right thing. And that's what she's going for. And that's what we want to expose these kids to is power. It's no fear. We can do this and we can do it better. Don't let no one tell us otherwise. I just wanted to just put it out there.
No, you speak a good one. You make me want to pull out my Puerto Rican flag.
Yeah, and I'll just add one more thing here because this is like a familiar quote, and I'm forgetting who said it, but you can't be something that you can't see. And I think, definitely personally for myself, it was hard for me to find my voice and be a strong woman until I saw those women. And even within my own family, the women that were strong, like were resilient, right? Like they held it down for their family, but they really couldn't vocalize, like stand up for yourself or be a strong woman because they had never learned that. I got that more through my professional career. And definitely, like Judge Manzanet is also a mentor to me, a mentor to so many of us. I also have Judge Jeanette Rosado, who's like a very close mentor to me. These are women that show you that you don't have to be afraid and you can be strong. And like that, those are the women that we want our girls to see because we know that that's will then allow them to be like, okay, I could do anything. I could say things. I could speak for myself. I don't have to do something I don't want to do. So we definitely want them to see as much as possible, as many versions of that strong woman that they will be too.
Yeah, I think Verna got to look at my questions because that's what talking. I was gonna ask you guys about Latin leaders and figures that have inspired you. If there's any other honorable mentions, by all means, please. I want to make sure that each of those individuals get shine and they're able to put that shine on others who we don't interact with every day.
Yeah, I mean, we can't speak enough about Judge Manzanette and Judge Rosado. Those are definitely top two. And yes, they're both lawyers, but they're most importantly like Bronx leaders. I also admire them, and I'll put V in that category too, Virna, because all of them are mothers as well, and they're caretakers and they're great girlfriends, right? Like they're genuine people, and that's very rare in nowadays. Like you will quickly get locked or like find yourself in a space where people just want something from you or are going to quickly turn on you or like misuse your trust. And that's not the case with those women, with Judge Rosado, Judge Manzanette, with Miguelina Crespo. Like they're great people that are just made that way. Like that's just who they are. I really always am so grateful to be in their presence and to get their energy because that gives me energy and it gives me hope, right? That I too can continue to build out my life in the way that they have.
Oh my God, I got so many names that I could throw at you right now. We have a Paloma Hernandez that runs Urban Health Plan, killing it. She's the CEO. Her
My mother used to
dad,
work for Urban Health on Southern
yes.
Boulevard by Simpson.
You see, Paloma is a great personal friend of mine doing amazing things. We have, oh my God, we have in the Dominican side, we have the Jacobo sister, Amarilis Jacobo, which is a dentist, very, very involved in politics. You want to tap into the Dominican community? The Jacobo sisters are there. They're amazing. But Paloma's amazing. Oh my God. And then we have a board member, right? Because we only think about, oh, who are the bigger names, but we have a board member. Her name is Jasmine Garcia. And Jasmine Garcia, I tell her, girl, this is all you. She runs Conbud, she runs Hood's Facility, she runs their real estate, she runs the two owners' personal life. So she is one of the badasses that we have in the Bronx. And she is so humble, she's so sweet, she's always available. Also wanted to just throw it out there and highlight her. There's so many big females that we can just speak about, right? And these are our personal friends that we're talking about, let alone when we create a space to bring in all the other individuals. This is a space that we're talking about politics, medical field, business, you name it, law. What else do we bring to the table, Miguelina? I think we have.
Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I'll just jump in and say that for this brunch on June 28th, we have very special guests. And I'll just mention two. One is Janet Peguero, who's a former deputy Bronx Borough president and close friend of ours, who will be there, another amazing Latina. And Melissa Viles Ramos, who's our New York City Chancellor of Public Schools. And she's the first Latina to hold that position, in a time where stuff is crazy. And our kids are like one of the most important things, or the most important thing, really, that we have to take care of. And she's doing that as school chancellor. I always say, I'm like, I always meet the most amazing women. And I do. And it's just a beautiful thing that we are in spaces mostly all the time where we're meeting great women, we're connecting, and we're just like growing our network and wanting from each other to succeed, to have opportunities, to really keep thriving. I think the phrase is to thrive in 2025, right? Like that's a thing. So that's really what we will hope to keep doing with them.
So now looking ahead, what are your aspirations for the Bronx chapter of 100 Hispanic Women, and how do you plan to expand its reach and impact?
I can start because I'm going to be like super short and quick. I believe what I would like to do, Miguelina, before we give the baton to someone else, is create a more structured mentorship program. Something easy, nothing crazy, nothing too complicated for the mentors. And yeah, connect the dots because we got 40 applicants. And out of the 40 applicants, it's a lower number that we might be able to cover this year. And I pray to God that God blesses us and we have an amazing year, right? That we can cover all the ones that, get approved. But out of those 40 girls, there's a need. and not just a financial need. So I would love to just bring them in and give them, if they didn't get the financial support, give them something else that could be more beneficial than the financial support. Here we are, we're saying, yes, we're fundraising, we're giving grants. I truly, truly believe, Miguelina, and you tell me if I'm wrong, having a mentor and having somebody to guide you is more valuable than sometimes just getting a grant. So I think if we build that before we pass our baton, we would leaving the Bronx with something great to work with.
1000%. That is the goal, to create that database or resource of us being resources, our board being that resource that people can communicate and reach out and say, I have a daughter, I have a cousin, I have a young woman I know that wants to go to whatever type of field, and that we can connect them with someone that can serve them. And I'll just say that, like, I'm still looking for mentors, even in my time as a more seasoned professional. I actually am doing another program myself where I was matched with a mentor. And that has already been very fruitful for me, because I think that's something that you can never have too many mentors, and your mentors will be like for different parts of your lives. So for these young women, especially, who are really just newborns in a way, right? Like just trying to figure out this world. That is what the plan will be, to leave the Bronx with a very strong mentorship, networking circle for them.
And this kind of rolls into my next question. And Latinas often face systemic barriers in professional environments. What initiatives or policies do you believe are essential to dismantle these barriers and promote equality, to show these young Latinas that may not have experienced such barriers to also support any positive actions?
That's honestly a very tough question, I would say, because I can sit here all day and tell you we're creating opportunities, we're setting these girls up for success. We're in the big world, and we know, especially now, things are rough. I am sitting in an office right now at work where I'm one Latina. That's the reality. We're in very limited spaces still. And these systemic barriers, to change them, we can say that we want change and we have to fight for it. And it takes a long time. And it takes a lot of allies and people in the room to speak for it, to stay on the positive side and to continue the work that we do with young people. We always want to be hopeful for them. We do want to, I guess, show them, how to manage, how to kind of find your way through the reality that things are very limited on purpose, and that nothing's going to be handed to you. Definitely Judge Manzanet, one of our mentors, will tell you that, like, you got to fight for it. You got to reach out and take it, and you got to ask for it. That's what we definitely want them to see from at least the examples of what we've lived. And, if they can avoid some of the difficulties that we face, that's great, but they need to be prepared for them.
And it reminds me of a quote because early in my working career, I was a paralegal for 13 years. And one of the partners of the firm, his favorite saying, if anything happens or something wasn't, squeaky wheel gets the grease. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. And he says it with such confidence, and he already know. He's been through his journeys and through his barriers with his culture and everything. And he says, look, if you don't really understand this, I was in my 20s. He's like, you don't really understand it. He goes, just you gotta ask, just like you said. You gotta ask, you have to speak, you have to self-advocate, and these were all foreign to me. And it still applies to this day when those see somebody as saying no and not given the opportunity, that's where it ends. And no, the person needs to learn and be guided and mentored to know to, yes, how to self-advocate when you're the only one fighting, especially for yourself and for others.
I'll jump in and add this. I'm one that I run away from politics. I will say, when we don't vote correctly and we have leadership are not aligned with what is needed in the community, it hurts us a lot. Having communication and just a relationship with the elected officials and just understanding how the decision making is done up in Albany, Miguelina, right? I consider that that's also helpful because if we as a community don't highlight to the elected official what is needed, then we can't blame them if they vote wrong or law passes and it's not, and it affects us in a bad way. We had that whole big it was an embarrassment, right, Miguelina, what happened to this judge. And it was lack of the community getting together and understanding what was going to be the repercussion in not supporting a Latino to sit in a high decision making position. And I just wanted to put it out there. Like, I'm not a fan of politics. I understand that it does affect us when we're not involved.
Very true. Now, Miguelina, what legacy do you hope to leave through your work with 100 Hispanic women, and how do you see the organization's role in shaping future Latina leaders? Now, that last part we've covered, and if by all means, if you have anything else towards that, please let us know.
Thank you. I think really the legacy is that there be a Bronx program that is long lasting and that is meaningful for the scholars, the students, the young women of the Bronx, because, we are 4 years out in the life of our program from an organization that has been around for closer to like 40 years. So it's super important that the Bronx just remain as an important program and a place where our community can also benefit. And I hope that the 100 Hispanic group for the Bronx is known as a collection of powerhouses, right? Women that you should know who they are, and women who want to help you and want to be supportive of our future.
Now, and this is a question for both of you and maybe for others within the organization to, I guess, more like a before and after with how you define personal success. How has that definition evolved with participating in 100 Hispanic Women?
Do you want to try? You want to go first?
Was that two questions in one?
No, it's one question, but it's with your personal success and how you would personally define it. Has it changed with your participation within 100 Hispanic women? Before going into it and then now coming out of it, somebody has their own definition of what success is, but then giving to public service and helping those who need the help with the mission of 100 Hispanic women, has that changed within you?
I'm gonna try to answer the question. Because I'm still like feeling like it's two different questions. So
It can be, yeah. It
yeah,
does
it
sound like
can't,
two
right?
different,
It
yeah.
sounds like two different
Because you have
questions.
your own personal success, and then
Yeah.
you're going through all of this amazing journey with 100 Hispanic women and their mission.
Yeah.
Has that changed?
So I want to say it has changed me personally, yes, in a positive way. And I'll explain why. For many years, I felt like I had imposter syndrome. Am I saying it right, Miguelina? Because I went into a field that everyone, not everyone, haters, right?
Mm.
Pointed the finger and said that I didn't deserve to be there because I was married to an elected official. And to them, I was placed there because I was married to an elected official. Just, dismissing all the years, all my experience, what I've done, the relationship that I've built, being in the room with all these different women that I met through my husband, right? Through politics, through the events, through the galas, through the community events, through the parades. I built a larger network than my husband to the point that I was a benefit to him because he then suffered from being shy and not knowing how to open a conversation. And so he used me. Miguelina can testify. I went to every event with this man. And it was because I was more successful and better at doing that. When I come into the 100 Hispanic Women, that was just a reminder of this is where I need to be because I've built this. I built the relationship. I maintained the friendship. I was able to learn how to dismiss agendas and just see, bypass all the negative in a person and see what is the benefit of keeping a relationship. I always linked it to that. I always linked it to who is going to need me to connect you to you because you can help this person. So I learned how to maintain relationship, and the 100 Hispanic Woman just amplified that for me. It amplified it to a different level of understanding that, our success is not what other people see our success to be or claim what our success should be or what they see what it is. Our success it's personal, it's internal. Pure success for me at my age currently right now is just freedom. Freedom of choosing what the fuck I want to do next, right? This is my season now. And I'm speaking, just personally. My
Preach.
season now is that I can choose what I want to do. I can choose right now if I want to do a 9 to 5. I can choose if I want to build my business. I want to choose if I want to just work from home, or I can choose to just sit on my ass and go back to school and change my whole different career at 43. I have now the mentality that I can shift however way I want. And I have an army of individuals behind me that are going to hold me and walk with me through the process. And to me, this is the mission of our organization, of our group, our program. It's that. So you're not alone. We're not going to leave you alone. I know for a fact Miguelina is never going to leave my side. There's nothing that I can do to Miguelina that she is going to give me her back. And the reason I say that is that I can do something bad to her and her mentors are going to tell her, no, this is what you're going to do because she's part of our group. That is how strong our group is and how loyal we are to each other. There's nothing that we can do that we're going to get outcasted from our circle. Yeah, I'm clear with that one.
And I can just see the future young Latinas looking at this and be like, I want to hang out with these people. Like it's nothing but strength coming from you guys, and that's an amazing thing to see because it's confidence. Confidence is sorely needed, especially by all of our young, hardworking individuals that all they want to do is like how you guys are doing is just help others in whatever way possible.
I think V answered beautifully. I can't add anything to it except to say that I'm so happy to see her shine. And I think 100 Hispanic, a funny story is that I think our first brunch 3-4 years ago, we're planning it and I hand her the mic. I'm like, you're going to be the MC. She's like, I don't want to speak. I don't know how to say anything. I'm like, well, here's the mic. And then I couldn't take the mic away from her because she was so great. And she kept talking and she said, wait, and we have to say this and we have to say that. And I just stood back and said, it was there all along. She just needed that platform, to open up. So I'm very happy to see V really come into her own. Like she said, it's all about freedom to be yourself. And I think it takes time to learn that. It takes age, it takes experience. Our young girls have to sort of go through that in a way and have to find it out for themselves. But if we at this point at our age, right, can show them that there is like a light at the end of the tunnel, then, we're our own examples of growth and of really loving yourself and knowing who you are.
Oh my God, you took me back to that day.
I'm so funny. I'm like, come on. I've seen you. And like you said, we've gone to all these events and all that. And you could get lost in a room. Like you don't really, it's energy overload. Like there's so much going on and you can get by for years, just kind of like being in the room, not really being the center of attention.
Yeah, working behind the curtains, and she freaking took me out of behind the curtain and put me in the front, and I was like, oh my gosh. But no, but I thank you, because that gave me a huge boost of confidence. And now, like, I speak better. Yes, there's always more work that you should be doing, just to better your public speaking. I've always been terrified. Easy to socialize, but terrified of having a mic in my hand. And she pushed me to that. And I think I did good last year too. I took that mic and I raised some funds too.
Yeah, our brunch last year, I was like, okay, we're almost done. She's like, no, 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 no. I need to do auction right now, or I need to raise. We still have a half hour left. We could raise some money, and I think she raised like another couple $1,000s in like 30 minutes. And I was like, I'm glad you're here. You could do that.
That's beautiful. And this type of charisma that you guys just naturally shine with, it's a great example to those that say, look, you stand beside us and we'll walk together, and look how you can be, look what you can become. And you find your voice, you find your passion and all that. It's everyone's so in overdrive to find their passion, when if we know anything about passion and our passion, relationships and everything like that in our careers, is that you can't force it. It appears when it appears. Being around accelerators like you two, I think they would find that way, way much faster. And that'll be an amazing thing. And I hope more young Latinas realize that charismatic tide will lift all the boats, in a sense, to paraphrase that saying. Moving on, what advice would you offer? Well, what more advice would you offer to young Latinas aspiring to enter their field of choice or take on a leadership role within their community?
I would definitely just advise to fight the shyness and just introduce yourself to a woman that you find her in the room or you like the way she talks. Just go and introduce yourself and ask them to, have coffee, or ask them if you can shadow them. Because I think women like us also, we're very open to sharing our time with people. And, especially when it's a young person who we know probably doesn't have that many resources or opportunities to meet people that are connected. I always just try to stress that to young people: ask for that help, ask for that guidance. No one's gonna judge you, right, for asking for help. It's like the best thing to do, because if you stay quiet, then you know what happens. You're not gonna get fed. So
Squeaky wheel. It's all the same thing. It's standing up and just speak your heart.
Well,
Right?
my advice would be a bit different. With the new generation, I think some of them, we have to tell them to leave their entitlement home. Some of
Interesting.
them think that things have to be handed to them and they don't need to work for it. Some are very introverts, and trying to help them come out of that and be able to ask, right, Miguelina, for that coffee date or Zoom call or just regular call to just introduce, or even an email. I had to help one college student send an email to introduce themselves to someone. And that was concerning. Leave that entitlement home. Be humble about how you ask people for help. Have grace on yourself. Sometimes we put pressure on. I had to learn that personally with my kids. We want to tell them what path they need to take, or tell them you need to have a career in mind before you go to college. Have grace, give them time. They should give themselves time to think. That's why I mentioned before, if we would expose different careers to high school students, they would have a easier way of deciding what path they're going to take to go to college. Having, and it all trickles down to, right, like even the family dynamic. My family dynamic now with my younger girls, we speak about careers all the time. We speak about college all the time. So they understand that, there's no option. There's no like, I'm going to become an influencer and become a millionaire. I got to go to college and get a career. So my daughters, they're already talking about, I'm going to become an orthodontist. And the other one is talking about, a different field. So, having the conversations at home is a plus. And if the family dynamic is not that, then here comes our group, right? And we give them that dynamic of, let me put you with somebody that's gonna take you out of that box and think bigger, or where can we send you, or what program you can do in the summer, or what program you can do in the winter, and just expose them to different things, which makes it easier. But I would say, a lot of these young kids have a bit of an entitlement, and others need to just have grace and be kind to themselves, and not be too hard.
Finally, wrapping up, two-parter. Since the April deadline passed, when is the next offering of scholarship applications for 100 Hispanic Women? Bronx Chapter.
The application is posted every year, usually around February.
Okay.
So the deadline for now has passed. It is closed, but 100hispanicwomen.org should be a website. You could subscribe to our email list and you get notification of when the application is up again.
And also students can become student member on our site, and then they'll get all the information via email.
And please share the 100 Hispanic Women Bronx Chapter call to action.
Oh, sure. So 100hispanicwomen.org is a website. You could find our Bronx chapter there and hear more about our story. But we are here. I'm Miguelina's president, Virna as vice president, very strongly encouraging that we support our young Latina women that are pursuing their careers, either through bachelor degrees or masters. And 100 Hispanics' sole mission is to raise funds for their education. We host activities throughout the year in order to raise those funds. And apart from just giving out scholarships, we create those opportunities to network and find new mentors, all within the Bronx community, because the Bronx is made up of amazing women, and we're hoping to connect as many of them as possible.
Thank you. I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for sharing this amazing organization's mission. Any last words?
Well, I want to say thank you, Oscar, for sharing your wife with us. She has been amazing, and I'm looking forward to working with her.
You want to keep her?
We'll have her as much as you let us have her. But thank you, Oscar, too, for having us on your podcast and giving us the floor to talk about this great organization that we are very passionate about, and we keep seeing it grow as the years come.
Thank you. It was my pleasure to host you guys. You guys are amazing, and can't wait to see what we can do in the future.
Yay. Thank you, Oscar. This was
All right.
pretty fun.
Hey, whenever you...
You know, Miguelina, we got to do one in person, like all of us.
Tú ves, we will be like, I'm shy, no me gusta hablar. And then she doesn't want
She got comfortable. She's
Let's
like...
do one in person.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely have you guys when RG comes back. We'd love to have her there and give you guys the floor, because it's this type of inspiration that is sorely needed, that people don't have, they don't see, they don't experience, and they think, oh, I got to be a part of that core group to get something like this. And you guys are like, no, everybody come in, come in. You know, okay, you may not vibe with me, our conversation, all we doing is talking about the weather, but then, you know, another person you can meet and you guys can become such fast friends. And it shouldn't be just relegated or regimental to have something like this go on. It should be so natural, and it just felt so natural with you guys. So thank you very much.
Gracias.
Still hauling around that emotional baggage like it's got frequent flyer miles. Exhausted from saying I'm fine, with a smile that twitches. You survived so much, but surviving isn't the same as healing. At Forgive to Live, a retreat tucked into the Vermont woods on the Escapo Estates, we offer space to unpack, breathe, and maybe, just maybe, forgive. This is not your average extended weekend spa, unless your spa includes soul healing and unexpected laughter. Come as you are, whether you're emotionally tangled or a triggered ready Karen. We'll meet you there. No kumbaya required. Just real people, real healing, and maybe a little ugly crying. It's not a vacation. It's a return to yourself. WeForgiveToLive.com.
Dice, yeah, ay. Ay.